Deep underneath Acrisure Stadium, guarded by a creed, stands a safe haven. Lined by wooden lockers, it fosters a team's will. A desire shared by the collective, not only to achieve, but also to overcome. When faced with the trials and tribulations the Pittsburgh Steelers have, inward is the only place for them to turn. It takes those 53 men, pitted against adversity, to put their will on the line and make their creed become a reality.
Here we go. This pass is caught and that's a touchdown. That's the way to work. Come on. He's hit that sack. The Steelers win the football game. Let's go. Come get it. You know what it is.
This one is in the history books.
Here we go.
Welcome to the 84 Lumber Mike Tomlin Show.
Hi everybody, and welcome to the 84 Lumber Mike Tomlin Show. I'm Missy Matthews. The Steelers were on a 4-game losing streak and also were underdogs at home. Nobody gave them a chance against Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, especially when 4 of their defensive starters were ruled out before the game. But Coach Tomlin told his team to dig deep, and the players listened, playing complimentary football and getting the win 20-18. To find out how they got the job done, let's send it over to Bob Pompeani, who's with Coach Tomlin. Bob.
Missy, thank you very much. And we welcome in head coach Mike Tomlin after a much-needed win. Looking back on that one, Coach, how satisfying was it considering the obstacles you were up against?
I'm just appreciative anytime our guys have an opportunity to make the things that we value real. We have a quote that's important to us organizationally: the standard is the standard, but those are just words. The efforts of the guys make it a reality. And what transpired on Sunday is an example of that. We had a lot of guys down, particularly in the secondary. We had some young, inexperienced people playing, and they made that cliche a reality because they played to a certain standard. They upheld a standard. They made the necessary plays, particularly the weighty ones. And I'm always excited when the guys have an opportunity to display that mindset because it's inspirational for those in development. We credit everyone here as a capable guy. Everybody that's in our program, everybody needs to be working daily for their opportunities to contribute and or ascend. And that's what last Sunday was about as I look back at it.
Interesting thing, looking back to 2016, you had success against Tom Brady by not going through 5-man rushes. In this game, at least it appeared to me like you didn't do that either. Was that the philosophy going in when you were going against that guy?
Yeah, it's been a number of years. We played him here in maybe 18. We didn't pressure him. I don't know that we've pressured Tom Brady in the last 10 years. I don't know that anybody that really understands him and how he functions does. He doesn't see a lot of pressure. So it wasn't anything unique. It's just a function of playing him. He's been on the job 20-plus years. You're not going to fool him. You're not going to have an unblocked guy hit him in the back and the ball go flying up in the air. You understand that. How you get to him is 4-man rush and somebody beating somebody and him thinking he's seemingly protected. And so that's kind of been our mentality for probably over a decade.
2 guys I want to single out here. Larry Ogunjobi, he looked like he was really severely hurt. He came back and made some big plays. And Terrell Edmonds, who I've always said was kind of a victim of where he was drafted. In other words, first-round picks, people have these, expectations of big splash plays, to use your term. But he's been a consistent player, and I thought he was really good in that game.
I thought he was really good, and his partner Minka probably gets enough attention too, and it's probably some of that. But he's a quality player. He was the only veteran available to us in the secondary, so it was a lot heaped upon him from a communication standpoint and a coordination of that group. And he was just getting back into the fold after being out a week. But I just thought he just wore the responsibility of being the senior guy in that group very naturally and very well. He was a calm and soothing voice among the secondary. And Larry O, can't say enough about his efforts. He was a real force inside, but to be quite honest with you, we needed him to be. As I mentioned, you're not going to get to Tom through the blitz game, and oftentimes things off the edge. His pocket presence is so good. When he's got a cavity to slide up in and deliver the ball, he does. And so the interior pressure that Cam Hayward and Larry O provided was significant.
All right, let's switch over to offense. Kenny Pickett went in the protocol, seems to be okay. Talk about him going through this week and being available for you on Sunday.
You know, he hadn't been restricted in any way from an activity standpoint in terms of prep. He's been able to participate. Mitch has been able to participate. We've had both quarterbacks working this week. He'll be our quarterback tomorrow.
Let's talk about Kenny Pickett in the protocol. Because he was, Mitch Trubisky came in. He looked to play with a lot more freedom, at least it appeared that way. He was so good on third downs. What did you see from him that you liked that maybe you didn't see, in the Jets game?
You know, I wasn't necessarily trying to compare it to what he's done in the Jets game. It was a different circumstance. You know, he got on a moving train and came into a game, and oftentimes, particularly as a veteran guy, boy, you do let it fly under them circumstances, and you can't wait to contribute and get in. And as I mentioned about the standard being the standard, it was an opportunity for redemption for him, if you will, to get back in and be a positive contributor to our efforts. And I'm just so happy for him. And I don't believe that any of us are surprised the spirit in which he came in and how he performed. Mitch has been solid and professional throughout all of this, and everybody in that positional group has. I don't think anybody on our team will be surprised if Mason Rudolph gets an opportunity at some point and plays in the same way. Those guys have just been really mature and professional throughout this whole process, and we're all blessed to have them and working the way that they do.
It's the most important position, and you got three guys capable of doing that's a positive, certainly. Chase Claypool also had a breakout game for him. 7 targets, 7 catches. What did you see from him that you like?
The combat catch plays. They were doing middle of the field open a lot, split safeties, and so they were working to minimize our guys outside, Pickens and Deontay, and that created matchup opportunities for him inside. And that's just the nature of football, particularly as you get into this thing. Some weeks, man, it's going to be middle of the field close, and it's going to be a lot of action outside. I think a week or so ago, Pickens had a lot of work because that was the framework in which the group we were playing that week was playing. Last week, it was a bunch of split safeties, and they were minimizing some of the things that happened on the perimeter of the field, and so Chase had an opportunity. The key is that we're strong in all areas. Guys like Chase dominate the interior portions of the field. It'll be good to have Muth back this week. He's another guy that really tries to dominate the interior portions of the field, and we let Pickens and Deontay do the work outside the numbers, if you will.
Well, it was a satisfying win for sure. 20-18, the final score. Steelers get to 2-4. They have a chance to get to 3-4 on Sunday Night Football against the team that's struggling right now. Started well, but struggling. The Miami Dolphins. We'll talk about them when we come back. Missy, let's head back over to you.
Yeah, Bob, thanks very much. The Dolphins have been hot at home going back to last season. They've won 8 of their last 9 at Hard Rock Stadium, the only loss coming last week against the Vikings. Still to come later in the show, my one-on-one with the first Steelers wide receiver to catch a touchdown this season.
We gotta be patient. You know, you can't get too frustrated with things going on. But it was definitely a little bit overdue, so I'm just excited to see who the next one is.
Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to the 84 Lumber Mike Tomlin Show.
TJ Watt is to Pittsburgh as Tua Tagovailoa is to Miami. The Steelers are 1-8 when Watt isn't in their lineup, and the Dolphins, going back to last season, are 1-5 when Tua doesn't play. He is returning, though, for the Sunday night matchup, so let's send it back to Bob and Coach to break down him and the rest of their roster. Guys.
All right, Missy, thanks very much. So as quarterbacks go, this week it's going to be Tua Tagovailoa, who's been out with a concussion protocol, a play in a situation that seemed to change the way NFL handles concussions, and rightfully so, but lefty quarterback. Now, you had Michael Vick here once before. You went against him when you were with Tampa. What's it like with a lefty quarterback, and what problems does he present?
You know, it changes a couple of components of their game. The fluidity of their misdirection passes to their left, the defense is right. We play a guy like TJ on the left side of our defense because he sees a lot of misdirection passes and pocket movements from right-handed passers. And so a guy like Alex Highsmith needs to be aware of quarterback mobility and pocket movement when you're playing a guy like that, but also just some of the rhythm passing things. The defensive right corner gets more rhythm passing than the defensive left corner, and that runs counterculture to normalcy. But not a lot of significant differences, but those are some things that capture your attention.
How much does a guy like Brian Flores help you in this situation, his knowledge of the Dolphins?
You know, it's been useful, but how our guys play determines whether or not it's significant. It's not about what coaches know, to be quite honest with you. It's about what we know and what we can teach and what we can convey to our guys and what they can recall in a moment. Sometimes when you're in the comforts of the classroom and you're talking schematics and personality and football, answers come easy. You put a play clock out there and it's about 6 seconds on it and you're on your feet and the snap is imminent and ideas and thoughts get a little bit more scarce. And so we have that understanding. We're sure that Miami has that understanding. All of us in this business have that understanding. But the determining factor in terms of what transpires in the game is what our guys know, what they can recall in a moment's notice, and the quality of their play post-snap.
You guys did a good job stopping Mike Evans, Chris Godwin. Now you got two guys who are really at the top of their game in Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. I want to ask you about Tyreek. He goes from Kansas City system to this one. Is there a difference how they're using him?
There is. He was an interior vertical threat in Kansas City a lot of the time. Gesicki, their tight end, is kind of that guy. And so it's been interesting to watch them manage the presence of two guys in that way. And don't get me wrong, Tyreek is capable of being a vertical threat wherever he is on the field, but he had a specific kind of role in Kansas City. And so they've been trying to manage some of those things and allowing those guys to coexist. But the bottom line is they got three legitimate vertical threats in the two you mentioned, plus Gesicki at tight end, that are going to require our attention. We better keep a lid on it. It starts there for us. You got to minimize chunk plays and keep a lid on it and then build from there. We were able to do that a week ago. It's going to be significant that we do it again this week. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Cedric Wilson as well. There's another vertical threat receiver that they paid quite a bit of money to this offseason when they acquired him in free agency from the Dallas Cowboys.
At times it seems like the running game is sort of a committee thing, but Mostert is there. He knows, obviously, the head coach who was with San Francisco. You see a lot of those sort of tendencies in their run game?
They thoughtfully do running back by committee, but it doesn't mean that their running game isn't a significant one. If you think about time spent in San Francisco, it's been a running back by committee, and he was a part of that committee. They've always had quality running back play, looking at the San Francisco model and looking at what they're doing there. They just choose to do it by committee to get the bullseye, if you will, off of one particular player, to have fresh runners. They like their runners, and they'll use them all.
Defensively, Xavian Howard's a guy that you know very well, tough shutdown kind of guy. Who gets that assignment? What are you trying to do to take him out of the game a little bit?
They're going to determine that. From week to week, oftentimes it's different. They'll put him on matchup-related things and put him on what they view as your top receiver. Sometimes they'll put him on what they view as your second receiver, and they'll thoughtfully take the double elsewhere, not wasting him in a double. And so the thing that you need to know about him is he's a significant player. His man-to-man cover skills really change schematics of a game. They can lock him on somebody and minimize him and take their attention elsewhere, or they can include him in some schematics. He's highly competitive and has been for a long time, but they got a really solid group around him, all of them. They're really good at staying close in man-to-man coverage. They got some guys down in the secondary, but I doubt it changes their personality. They got very good depth and guys that run really well.
And they're a team that needs a win. They're 3-3. They started with 3 wins. Now they have 3 losses. When we come back, we're going to talk to Coach Tomlin about the keys to this game, Sunday Night Football in Miami. That's coming up shortly. Missy, we're right back to you.
Thanks so much, guys. Looking forward to your keys. And speaking of which, Chase Claypool wants to be one of them. He's coming off his best performance of the season and looking to do it again on Sunday Night Football in Miami. You'll hear from him coming up next. But now it's time for your Yins Chat trivia question. Who has the most tackles in a single game versus the Dolphins, James Ferrier or Lawrence Timmons? Find out after the break.
Welcome back to the 84 Lumber Mike Tomlin Show.
Your Yins Chat trivia answer is Lawrence Timmons with 14 tackles. Yins Chat is the Steelers' official predictive and trivia game. Answer questions, make picks, and win prizes. Play Yins Chat exclusively on the Steelers' official mobile app. Well, most Steelers fans probably wondered if last Sunday would be the last time they saw Tom Brady versus their favorite team. I think it's safe to say they were excited to see the return of Mapletron. That's Steelers wide receiver Chase Claypool, of course, and he certainly brought his A game. Here's more from Claypool in our one-on-one this week.
Chase Claypool coming up big time with 7 catches at 96 yards. Fires that pass. It's caught, and that is Chase Claypool with another big catch.
All right, Chase, I know in training camp you said that Brandon Marshall became a mentor to you. How did you meet him, and how did he take you under his wing?
Yeah, so I actually ran into him Super Bowl weekend. We were just walking on the street going towards an event, and he yelled my name. So I came across the street, started talking to him, and he said he would love to work with me at some point, and we just started going from there.
How much did it help you, and what's your biggest takeaway from that time you spent with him?
I think it did really pay dividends. You know, it's hard to show that how much it helped. It's just carrying that knowledge on with you that you didn't otherwise know, I feel like is invaluable. So I learned a lot of things that I probably wouldn't have otherwise learned from him.
This is a big challenge for the Steelers offense. Starts running left, throws it down the field. Chase Claypool, a diving effort on the sideline. They do call it a catch.
This is the Chase we've been waiting to see.
How did that feel to put on that performance?
It was really good. It felt good. You know, I was talking to a couple people throughout the week, and was just like, I really hope I can be the reason why we win. You know, like I want to say I had the opportunity, and you know we came up short, or I had the opportunity and we won the game. But I don't want to say I wish I had the opportunity.
Coach Tomlin said he expects great things from you. Is that something you just know, or does he remind you of little things? How is that relationship?
He reminds me in practice, just at the beginning of practice. He tells me to have an American work day. Because I don't know why, but yeah, he does that. So,
in terms of the wide receiver group, did you feel like this was one of the best games you guys were able to put together and work in unison almost?
Yeah, for sure. Probably on the season. I think there's just still more on the table. I think we should be still doing a little bit more for the team, but you know, we're doing as much as we can, and I think it's trending upwards.
You caught the first touchdown.
Fires for the end zone. Touchdown, Chase Claypool. Do we finally have a wide receiver touchdown?
You're the first one in the end zone this year. Patience, we got it.
How did you guys motivate yourselves to finally check that box?
We gotta be patient. You know, you can't get too frustrated with things going on. But it was definitely a little bit overdue, so I'm just excited to see who the next one is.
Najee told us after the game that he broke down the playmakers before, challenged everybody.
Hey, this group right here, we gotta play better, bro. Period, point blank. It starts with us, all right? Playmakers on three. 1, 2, 3. Playmakers. Let's do it.
What did that do for you heading into that game?
Yeah, Najee does a good job kind of highlighting what we need to do in the game. He's lived through a lot of football experiences, you know, going to Bama, being able to understand, you know, big games. And even though this was our 6th game, it was a really big game because it was really a must-win. It just gives you that energy, like when you walk out the tunnel right before the game. So it's a perfect little pregame speech, I would say.
What's the challenge of taking what you guys did well in Tampa and using it going in Miami to face the Dolphins and staying consistent to stack wins?
Yeah, that's going to be important because it's momentum. You know, if we can get this win, that'll be huge for our momentum and our confidence. And then, you know, the week gets better when, you know, we're flying around a little more, we're having a little more fun. But this win isn't going to be easy if we can pull it off.
And you can catch my full interview with Chase on the Steelers YouTube page or simply by scanning the QR code below. Well, it is the 50th anniversary of the Immaculate Reception this season, and Miami is using their game against Pittsburgh on Sunday night to celebrate what happened after that magical game. It's a rematch of the 1972 AFC Championship that made the Dolphins then become the only team in NFL history to go undefeated and win the Super Bowl. So how can the Steelers crash their party? Let's send it back over to Bob and Coach for your keys to the game, presented by your neighborhood Ford store. Guys.
All right, Miss E, here we go. It's a Sunday night game in Miami. Bright lights, Steelers seem to have that. I'm sure there are going to be a lot of Steeler fans there. Coach, just talk about just the fact that you're in a situation here where you're on the road against a team that really needs a win. They're going to obviously come at you with a lot. What's the number one thing on your mind heading into this game?
You know, a couple things. First of all, everybody's in need of a win. And so that's just our mentality. I don't know that we're going to view it any differently because of where they are. For us, we got to maintain possession of the ball. I think a lot of attention has been made about their turmoil at quarterback and how that has affected their recent turn of events. But When I look at them, they're a group that was getting turnovers earlier in the year. I don't know that they've gotten a turnover in the last 3 weeks. And so I'd imagine in quiet circles, they're talking about getting the ball and ball awareness and hunting the ball. And so we got to do a really good job of that. We took care of the ball last week, and I thought that was a good catalyst for us in terms of performing and playing well against Tampa Bay, and I think it's going to be significant in this game. They need the ball. When they get the ball, when they're creating turnovers, they're capable of beating people like a lot of teams, and we got to keep them where they are in that regard. And then we got to build on the weighty playmaking that we made last week, and really on both sides of the ball. You think about Chase Claypool and some of the longer third and longs that we had in the second half offensively, but I also think about the third and shorts that we had defensively in the second half. The bottom line is those downs are weighted differently. We talk about it often, and the winningness of those downs puts you in position to win football games.
I like that, weighty downs. We talked earlier in here about that being the name of a horse. It'd be a great name for a horse. Weighty downs, heading down the stretch. Let's talk finally about special teams, because Steven Sims stepped up an 89-yard return. He didn't necessarily cash in on touchdown. That can change the game, and we saw it last week.
Particularly when neither group is turning the ball over, and that's the point that I made to the team. We played a game last week. Tampa didn't turn the ball over. We didn't turn the ball over. And so what puts teams on the long field or the short field, the positioning component that's oftentimes created in the kicking game. That big kickoff return, he had a 20-plus yard punt return that returned the ball to midfield. Those are field positioning things that really, make up the trajectory of a half or a game. And so his contributions are significant.
All three facets will be on display. Coach, thanks very much, and all the best in Miami.
Thank you.
And that's going to do it for our program tonight. Be sure to join us on KDK tomorrow morning at 11:30 a.m. We will have our BetMGM Steelers kickoff show for you. And on behalf of Missy Matthews and head coach Mike Tomlin, I'm Bob Pompeani. Have a good week. We'll see you again next week right here for another edition of the 84 Lumber Mike Tomlin Show.